Hello, my name's Bill Smurry, and today I'm with Leslie Yee and my very good friend, Lindsey Reynolds, and Akira, our guide dog here. Now, Leslie is, and I want to make sure I do this right, she's the chairperson for the Canadian Council of the Blind Peterborough Chapter.
That's right.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
And Lindsey, this is a group. Lindsey's a member too, is that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, usually the way I start off on. Oh, I forgot to mention I'm with my production manager here, David Helene, who is in charge of everything and runs this place. So, Leslie, tell us a little bit about yourself, okay? Like, where you grew up, that sort of thing, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Growing up, we moved around a lot with my family, so I've grown up in many different places. But if you want to talk a little bit more about the eyesight side of things, I was born with optic nerve damage in my left eye, very myopic, and I had the typical lazy eye astigmatisms and things like that you're often
it's going to get better?
born with. Yeah, not really, but
okay, she'll grow out of it?
No, unfortunately that stayed with me all my life.
Okay.
But what's really nice is growing up, I didn't know I had any of that stuff.
Okay.
So to me, I never had an eye issue or any eye problems. The only thing that I had trouble doing was playing sports, and I just thought it was not because I didn't have depth perception, because I didn't know about that then, but I just thought that I wasn't good at sports. But I could do so many other things. So I never grew up thinking I had any form of visual impairment at all.
That's it. Okay, really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody picked up on that.
Well, I wore glasses since I was 11 months old, so my parents knew, and they made sure I had my glasses, which gave me enough vision in one eye to be able to drive most of my life. So I didn't know it, but you only have to have eyesight in one eye to drive, which I always find absolutely fascinating and scary. Yeah, and I didn't know that. I just, like every other kid at 16, went for her driver's license and got it. And so I was able to drive. I've never had 20/20 vision, even in my good eye though, but enough to drive. And when I turned 48, that's when I became advanced in macular degeneration. You've probably heard of that. Many people have. And that's when I lost not the rest of my vision, but a lot of my vision, and definitely my central vision. Yeah. So that's kind of a little bit of the history of my vision. But like I said, growing up, and I've got a great family, good support.
That's nice. That's
I'm married. I have 2 children.
That's great.
Yeah.
So that's nice. And you've got a beautiful guide dog here.
Yeah, Akira. Yeah, he's been great. He's been with me for a year now. Absolutely love him. We're never apart.
That's good.
Yeah.
And you met my grand dog this morning, which is nice.
That's nice. Yeah. He's great.
Lindsey, tell us a bit about yourself. When you first ran into this, you first noticed issues and that sort of thing.
The first issues really started about 35 years ago. I had a detached retina on my right eye, and actually I was working in Montreal at the time, and I went through some surgery, and actually it turned out well. Then about a couple of years ago, I started getting some more symptoms of detached retina on my left eye, and ended up losing the vision in my left eye, and then macular degeneration, and then some detached in my right eye. So Leslie was talking about driving. I was driving a little bit because I was still qualified, but then about a year or so ago, I lost. I went below the MTO rating, so they basically take your license away. So I've been driving for about a year and a half now. So that's a bit of a challenge in itself. But so over the last two and a half years, it's been a number of surgeries, probably about 70 or more trips to Toronto, Western, and seeing the doctors up there. So right now I just have about a limited vision in my right eye, but I can still get around as long as I don't drive.
Yeah. So, okay, Lindsey, thank you. Leslie, so Canadian Council of the Blind.
Yes.
Peterborough Chapter.
Yes.
I, for one, know nothing about it, and that's why I wanted you. Please come in. And I don't want to leave this so open-ended, right? But maybe you can help us out here, because I don't even know. Like,
Yeah.
those appropriate things to ask you. Like they must have activities, they must have programs, and this sort of thing. So
Yeah.
could you expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Canadian Council of the Blind is a national organization.
Okay.
It's across Canada. It started in 1944.
I know it's the ex-soldiers.
Yeah, with the veterans. It was originally, originally the Canadian National Institute of the Blind, CNIB, and the Canadian Council of the Blind were one at the beginning. And separated.
That's something else I don't think people understand. It's two different things.
Exactly, yeah. So the Canadian National Institute of the Blind, they really, right now they're all about rehabilitation, independent living skills, teaching you how to use a cane, teaching you how to use devices. The Canadian Council of the Blind, which is what we're part of, is more about the social aspect side, peer-on-peer kind of group, as well as some advocacy as well for people with vision loss. So each chapter, like Peterborough Chapter, we are self-governed. So even though we are national, we're self-governed ourselves, which means our executive all have vision loss. All of our members have some sort of vision loss. We do have volunteers that come and help us out or help us with driving.
I want to get into that too, this whole topic.
Yeah. So volunteers are well, without our volunteers, we really wouldn't exist as well, because they help us out so much. But because we're self-governed, we do the things that our group wants to do. So when it comes to activities, or whether they're physical activities or social activities, we do what our group would like to do and organize it ourselves. It's really, a lot of it is about empowerment. When you start to lose your vision, or if you tend to lose your vision, have lost your vision later, it is really easy to become a shut-in. And it's really hard sometimes to just take that step outside of the house, and really hard to join a group, especially if the group is either unaware of your vision loss. Because with most of us, like both of us, if you just saw us the way we are now, you'd have no idea we have vision loss.
No idea whatsoever.
Exactly. So it's a hidden disability. What gives me away now out on the street is Akira, because you see Akira and you know I have a guide dog. That now is what gives me away. But other than that, not that I'm trying to hide it, but we're about embracing it. We're about being part of the community and doing things for ourselves and getting people out of their houses to come and join us in a safe, very proactive environment. They can safely ask questions. We've become friends with all of our members. We become close friends. And you learn so much from peers about any type of a situation you're in, or the way to do something.
Do it differently, but...
Yeah, so a lot of things that we do, we just do differently. We can do most things for ourselves, aside from maybe driving.
Yeah.
But we can still cook for ourselves. We can still take care of ourselves. We can still live independently as well. We do things a little bit differently, but we can still do them. Yeah.
So, in Peterborough, how many members would you have, approximately?
Well, in our group right now, we have 25 members and volunteers, and we've only been in existence for 3 years. In May, coming up, is actually our 3rd anniversary. So we're a new chapter of Canadian Council of the Blind. So we're always looking for new members.
New volunteers, sort of thing?
New volunteers, yeah, absolutely.
Lindsay, you want to add anything to that?
I've been just a short while with the board, and I've enjoyed the people. We did a road trip to Campbellford and Hastings a couple weeks ago.
That's a nice drive.
It was. We had a great. There was about almost 20 of us, and we had doing some shopping, and then out for lunch in Hastings, and it was just one. It was a beautiful day.
Yes.
And the second, we just carpooled and went up there, and I just had a great morning. It was just a lot of fun. So it's a good group of people that interact very well.
So funding. How is this?
We fundraise ourselves.
This is going to be good. Okay.
Yeah.
How do we do this?
Well, we've done some different types of fundraisers. Your typical chocolate fundraisers, and we sell poinsettias at Christmas and things like that. So we're always open to different types of fundraising. But we've also been fortunate through Peterborough, the city of Peterborough, they have community grants, and we've been able to apply for a $400 or $500 community grant to put towards some of our programs, because we do now have a few programs that our chapter is running. We have the one program called From the Blind for the Blind, which is one that, our newest one that we're really working on. We're really excited about it, because what we do is we take in gently used visual aids.
Okay.
It could be magnifiers, it could be a cane someone's not using anymore, it could be a CCTV, which is like a closed caption TV screen that magnifies things for you. So there's all kinds of talking watches, it could be anything. We take in those and we redistribute them to people who could use them, perhaps can't afford them, or would just like to try something for a while before purchasing it themselves through the manufacturer. So that is something that we're really trying to spread the word on and explore as well. But we also have a Learn to Curl program, and we have a wonderful...
Tell us about that.
Yeah, it is
Let's
so much
explore that.
fun. It
Let's
is
explore
so
that.
much fun.
Yeah.
So
How does that work? Yes, please.
yeah, so for curling, we use the sticks. Have you curled before?
I have curled.
You have curled, okay.
Not very well.
Well, the whole idea is it's fun. And we curl at the Peterborough Golf and Country Club, and we have a wonderful arrangement. They actually give us the space for free Wednesday mornings. They give us the ice for free. So
Peterborough Golf and Country Club.
Yes,
that's
they do.
Very, very generous. That's
very
great.
generous.
That's wonderful.
And we also get the volunteers from the club, so they come out and volunteer their own time. And in many cases, we have one-on-one, a volunteer for each person, and if not, it's at least one with two people out on the ice. The most fabulous thing about our volunteers is they're not just out there saying, letting us throw a rock. They're actually teaching us the game. They're proper coaches. And I can't speak enough about that, because there's so many programs out there will say, yeah, come and learn. And basically what they do is they just let you play the game, but they don't really go through the strategic planning of a game, or why you're doing something, or why you're throwing the rock a certain way. But they do, and we just, oh my gosh, it's so much fun. We have a great time.
How often do you do this? Once a week or once a week?
It's once a week, Wednesday morning, starting in November. We usually curl to the end of February. There are some days that we can't curl because there's a bonspiel or something happening at the club, but it's very generous of the club to give us the ice time to do that. Yeah.
That's first rate.
It is, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we also have another member who has her own radio show called Inside Peterborough on Trent Radio.
I read that.
Yeah. So she's been doing that. That's once a week. And she talks about all things related to any form of ability. So it's not just for vision loss. It's she'll bring in different people from other organizations to talk to them about their programs. And
I'm reading it. Devin Wilkins?
Yes, Devin Wilkins. Yeah. Yeah. And she's wonderful. She also has a guide dog. And
Frankie.
Yes.
She's on Friday mornings 10 to 11?
Yes, that will be changing for the summer to Monday afternoons, I believe, at 5 o'clock. They run a summer program versus the fall. This one was for the fall.
I've never listened to it. I'm going to have to listen to it.
Yeah, she has different people on every week, 1 or 2 people every week. It's an hour-long show that she has.
That should be an interesting person to talk to.
Yeah, very much so.
You've got other programs like Tying My Shoes. What's that?
Well, that's with actually another organization called Council for Persons with Disabilities, and I volunteer for them as well. And they
What is it called?
Council for Persons with Disabilities,
okay.
CPD.
Okay.
And they have a Time in My Shoes program where through experiential learning they'll go into schools and businesses and teach people what it's like to live with a different ability. So they'll put you in a wheelchair. You'll wear vision simulator goggles to know what it's like to have low vision. You'll wear headphones and you'll experience what it's like in your own workplace or in your school, what it's like to get around with those type of
okay, so I have no idea this even existed, okay?
Yeah.
I wonder how many more are the people in the they have no idea.
They have no idea, and we're working really hard in trying in many different ways to get the word out, through, we have, of course, all the social media, Facebook. But you have to find out about these organizations in order to find out what they're doing. And sometimes that's the hard part. The thing with having a disability, until you have a disability, you don't really know about these other places because you go looking for them.
How would you know?
Exactly. And why would you? Unless you knew somebody or had a family member that all of a sudden lost their hearing or lost their eyesight, you'd have to go looking for the organizations that can help them. And that's how you find out about us. But we do participate in a lot of different community events so that we're trying to reach out that way to the rest of the community. The Senior Showcase coming up. It's in June 16th, I believe it is, and it's out at Fleming, the Wellness Center. Senior Showcase. They average about 1,000 people coming through in one day.
Okay.
And there's just booths set up. They have a non-for-profit section, and then they have a business section. And for example, Council for Persons with Disabilities will be there. Canadian Council of the Blind will be there.
When's that held?
I believe it's June 16th.
June 16th at Fleming.
At Fleming, yes, out at the Wellness Center. They've been holding that. It's put on by the Chamber of Commerce, Peterborough Chamber of Commerce. So you could get all your information through them about it.
We are members, are we not? Lindsay, you and I?
Yeah.
Through the pro group, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that would that actually is one way that we try to attend those, so that we try to reach out to the general population as well.
Let's talk about something else.
Yeah.
Technology. Gaps in technology. Okay, so there's Lindsay. I'm seeing him. He's trying to use his phone, his iPhone, right? And he has some difficulty. I mean, using it. So, would you care to expand it? Like that's one of the gaps I see in technology. I don't know. And then there's Braille. I mean, I know nothing about these subjects. Like really, like
Braille is a fascinating language. It's the English language. It's just typed out in Braille. It was actually adopted from Louis Braille is the person that invented Braille, and he got part of the idea, I think, through Morse code. The idea of Braille through Morse code. But the only thing with Braille, I've tried learning Braille because, of course, I didn't lose a majority of my eyesight till I was 48. So I, read and did everything that everyone else did growing up. But the thing with Braille is it's very touch sensitive in your fingertips, and as we get older, our fingertips, we lose that sensitivity. And it's really hard. Like my friend Devin, who does Insight Peterborough, she was born without eyes. So she's never had sight, never had the opportunity to understand or see sight. She's a fascinating lady. You would never know she didn't have sight. She does everything on her own. And but she's done Braille since she was a child. And in doing so, she's got that touch. And she'll even say, it is hard to learn when you're older because you lose that touch. So that's probably the most difficult part about Braille. Learning the language isn't that difficult. It's just that touch, being able to differentiate when you're reading it. I'm always envious of her because we'll be at a meeting, let's say like this, and she'll sit there and be reading her Braille, but continuing to talk. And here she's reading along to herself about something and talking with everyone. I can't do that anymore. Like I can't, look at something and read it like she can, with her fingers. It's fascinating.
Things like the phone, like texting. I mean,
do it by voice.
Voice activation.
Yeah. So all the devices now have iPads and phones, and even your computer have voice activation when needed. So
I've never used voice activation.
Yeah. So many people do that. Okay. They do use the voice, and they do have. Like on cell phones, they do have a lot of their own built-in apps or built-in features for people with vision loss that where we like text to speech or speech to text, and it'll read things back to you. We just have to activate them on the phone and then learn how to use them. That's probably the complicated part, is sometimes knowing what's there, because again, unless you have vision loss, you're not going to go looking for it on your phone. And it's really, often it's just hard finding somebody.
No, you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know what's there or what it does. Or even know that it's there.
The technology still has a long way to go. Because you need text to message or speech. Like, unless you were very articulate and very slow, it could write types many different things for you. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. There's still a lot of things, but there, for example, they've now come out. One of the biggest things is GPS.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So new forms of GPS, and they are coming out with some new technology and experimenting with them. And one of these really neat things that are just starting to hit the market now is mobility canes that have a built-in GPS on it, where it detects, it's like an eye, kind of like the cars where they see what's ahead, and it beeps or reverberates back to you and vibrates the cane. So if you were walking up to the table, it would tell you that there's something there ahead of you, and it vibrates so that you can actually navigate around things without running into them. So that was one of the big things. Even though you have a cane in front of you, you still kind of bump things.
Yes,
so now before bumping into it, it reverberates into the cane. So there is new technology all the time being developed and getting out there. I think the biggest barrier is always price. There's a lot of people who can't.
Expensive technology.
Yeah, technology is always expensive.
New technology,
There are some programs, and there's like ADP, Assistive Devices Program, which is put on by Ontario. But it's honestly, it's quite archaic. So the items that they have now on that program are quite old that you can get. None of the newer technology and the most up-to-date stuff isn't even on the program. So that's the expensive stuff, and that is the stuff where before, you'd have to have 3 or 4 different devices to do one thing, or a variety of things. Now, a lot of times you can get one device that can do it, but can you afford that device?
Can you afford it?
Yeah. So it's they have a long way to go to kind of fix that problem, but I understand it's in the works. Just time.
Oh, I admire your optimism.
Optimism. You have to have that. Yeah.
Yes, you do. That. I couldn't agree more.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes,
here?
no, please. Do.
So I was just curious about. So you weren't born with you've had eyesight for a long time. But when exactly did you, like, in your development, was it as an adult that you sort of became more blind, or was it always, what stage of your life were you at when?
Yeah, so I was born with the optic nerve damage in my left side, so I've only had sight in one eye most of my life. But it was with glasses, it was enough sight to be able to drive. And then in my 30s, I was diagnosed with macular degeneration, early stages, so it didn't affect my eyesight. And I was one of the typical, macular degeneration, that's for old people.
It's old people disease.
Yeah, it's not going to affect me for a long time. Now, it did take 15 or so years, but when I was 48 and I drove to my optometrist's office thinking, I got to get my glasses changed. I'm starting to scare myself driving. And I knew I was scaring myself. And I figured, if I'm scaring myself, I must be scaring those around me.
Somebody else,
Yeah. So I drove to my optometrist's office, and he sat me down and he checks my eyes, and I said, so you're going to be able to fix my prescription? He says, Leslie, I'm sorry. You are now legally blind. Not only did I drop below the MTO standards, I became legally blind, which is another big jump. So he said to me, did you drive here? And I said, yes. He said, I'm sorry, I can't let you drive away. Park the car. And I lost my license just instantly.
Wow.
So that was, I cried. I just sat there and cried. But I was relieved though at the same time, because there was a reason for me scaring myself when I was driving. And there was and then I also didn't feel guilty going to the doctors and questioning why I was having trouble driving. It sounds funny, but I was a little bit relieved. Very sad though, of course, because I lost that independence.
Yes.
That's one of the biggest
Your independence
things.
is
It's gone.
It's gone.
I lived in the country. I didn't live in Peterborough, but I worked in Peterborough, and I didn't want to lose my job as well. I wanted to keep my job. So I had a lot of stuff to work through at that time, which I did. And I stayed in my job for still quite a few years more before I finally had to give that up. But it was a shock. I wasn't expecting that. I thought I had more time.
Just get my glasses fixed.
Yes, just get my glasses fixed. So yeah, I was 48 when I lost I became advanced with macular degeneration and lost all the central vision. And the central vision is what helps you see faces, drive a car, read, write, all that detailed work. That's your central vision. Macular degeneration does not take away your peripheral vision. So it's like seeing big picture. So I can see around me. I don't have tunnel vision. I don't see black. I can see around me.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and I can still see color, which is unusual. The doctors can't figure out why I still see color. I shouldn't. According to all my tests and scans, all the cones and the rods that allow me to see color are dead, but I still see color.
You still see color, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll take it. I'll take it as long as I have it. Because color helps differentiate things. It separates things. So if I didn't have that, things would be a lot more blurred together than they are. The color separates for me.
When Leslie mentioned on your vision, so you can be under the MTO qualifications that restricts your driving, or really you can't drive, but from that range to legally blind is a substantial change.
Yes.
So you get caught up, for those like myself who's not considered legally blind, but I can't drive. So as far as my vision, but in that gap, you almost get lost as far as some of the benefits that may be available through government assistance or some CCRA protections or whatever. So they just look at that gap and you're really sort of lost. Unless you're totally legally blind. Okay. So there is some differences in there where some of the benefits that some people qualify for, others don't, and it's just basically on the margin of vision range.
Yeah, so that's a really good point, because you can lose your driver's license and
not be able to work. Let's say
not be able to get to work, but you don't qualify for any form of government assistance because you're not yet legally blind. Yeah. They have to set a standard somewhere, and they've set it at 2200. So you have to be 2200 in both eyes corrected to be legally blind. And the MTO standard is 2050 corrected. Once you're below that, then you lose your license. So between 2050 and 2200,
yes,
you're low vision, but you're not legally blind.
You're not legally blind.
And there's a lot of things that particularly financially, that you can't qualify for. It's really tough. It's a tough. In one sense, I was very fortunate because I jumped from being over, like I probably averaged 20/40 most of my life in one eye. That's why I could drive. And I jumped straight down to 2200. So I missed that gap. And I didn't know at the time about the gap. I didn't know that there was, if you're in that gap, there's really very little financial assistance, if any.
And you don't know it, to your point earlier, till you go looking for it.
Till you go looking for it.
And then you find out that that's...
You're not qualified.
Yes, you're not qualified.
You're disqualified.
Exactly. So it's you learn a lot of the ins and outs when you start to develop different disabilities, and not just vision, any disabilities.
Exactly.
I'm sure this carries on to other,
Absolutely. So unless you don't know people, I met Leslie through a disability tax advisor. So he understood what was going on, and I became involved with CCB. But unless I talked to him, I wouldn't have known.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I had one other question, which is
Please.
just like in terms of like the technology that you've sort of seen. You've been involved obviously with you've probably seen some technological developments. But like I think that there's a lot of people now who, instead of making the phone call, they send a text message.
Yes.
And instead of now instead of maybe getting instead of maybe going out, you sort of sit in and maybe read content and this kind of thing. And so I guess the question that I had was this technology, what is like significantly changed about this in terms of accessibility and support in terms of technology for this over the past 20 years or whatever, right?
Yeah, well, in 20 years, that's kind of like a magic number right now, because so much has happened in the last 20 years with technology, and it has made things more accessible, definitely. Like 20 years ago, you had to pick up a phone and press the buttons, right? If you can't see the buttons, what do? So they came out with a large phone.
Yes, I remember.
Yes, and really, big kind of square, and that was about it.
Yeah.
But now with cell phones and the accessibility features on cell phones, and as well as the accessible features on the internet or using email and that sort of thing, it has made things more accessible, which makes it easier to find things in one sense. If you can get on and you can Google it, or start, whether you're typing in or voicing in something to have Google help find you, as long as you're there and you're listed, or the organization is listed, it is easier to find things, especially for people that are struggling with getting out of their house, or have become a shut-in. They're not meeting people, they're not getting out there and talking to people to find out about things. It's still, I feel, the best way to find out about something, because if Lindsay came to me and says, oh, well, I joined this group, they're great, I would trust Lindsay over a review on the internet myself, right? Because I know Lindsay and I would trust him. So we really encourage people to try to get out. If you do find out about something, to get out, because talking with other peers really does, it just motivates you to try new things, or to come out a little bit more and to get out of your, I can't speak about that enough, because I have seen so many people
They go into hibernation?
yeah, they're just afraid. They're afraid of they don't know what to do. They're afraid of, if you just lost your vision, your life changes.
Yes.
You've got to learn to do things differently, but they're also worried about perceptions, how other people are seeing. So before I got my cane, I think I joked with you, before I got my cane, long before Akira, I had a mobility cane.
Okay.
And the reason I got my mobility cane was I was starting to stumble and hit simple things on the ground that I shouldn't be hitting and stuff like that. And I was saying, oh my God, everyone around me must think I'm drunk, because I'm stumbling. Nobody can tell
Nobody can tell.
Yeah, so I got my cane, and that kind of at least gave me the security to say, okay, I've got a cane. It helps me get around, but at the same time, people now have something, that they know that this cane means I have low vision. I'm not drunk. I just have low vision. So getting out and talking to people and sharing those stories helps alleviate those misconceptions or myths that people are gonna think I'm a victim, and I'm more prone to getting robbed, or we do hear that a lot, and unfortunately that might be true at some point, but you can't be afraid of that. You can't stop living because of stuff like that. But there's ways that we can learn to offset that.
The change is, and Leslie hit the point, it's there's a tendency for depression to slip in.
Yep.
So when that crack opens, you don't want to go anywhere. And I went through it. It was a friend of mine who identified it. Like, I didn't want to get off the couch. We'd be leaving the house, and I just tell my wife, stop, I'm getting out of the car, go back in the house. We couldn't manage it. But I've been able to get through that. But through our trip to Campbellford a couple weeks ago, and seeing how interactive and how mobile people that are completely sightless, with their dogs, with their cane, with their volunteers, and what they were doing was the biggest motivator for me to say,
they're worse off than I am.
Exactly, and look at what they're doing. It's not what they can't do; it's what they can do.
Exactly.
And,
that's so good. You're right.
Those people were just such motivators for me, and I was just looking at it and going like, and I'm feeling sorry for myself. Look at the people, and so that, to Leslie's point, get out, meet the people, talk to the people, because you know what, they all have stories to tell.
They all have stories. Yeah. This is a really informative session.
Good.
I'm learning piles of things here.
Oh,
okay,
good.
I want to switch the subject slightly.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Akira.
Yeah.
How did you come by Akira? Akira's training, like everything about like a guide dog. I mean. There's a subject, I see people with guide dogs occasionally. Mm-hmm. I have no idea. Mm-hmm. The training, the financial, everything.
Okay. So Looking for a guide dog school is a lot like looking for a university. You're allowed to go to the States or Canada. You can do your own research on the schools and find out what school you would like to be a part of, because each school offers a little bit different type of training of their guide dogs,
Okay.
sometimes different types of guide dogs.
How many, okay, so, sorry for interrupting. How many schools were you looking at?
Oh my gosh, I think I looked at about 5 different schools.
Okay.
One in the States, and so maybe 4, 3 in Canada.
Okay.
And they're all good, and there's nothing bad about any
So
of the
what,
schools.
so who says, okay, Leslie, it's time for you to get a guide dog? Who says that?
Oh, I made that choice myself.
You make the decision,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
I knew I qualified for one.
Okay.
So you do have to qualify, which means, again, being legally blind. There's one little cat. So once you've researched what school you might like to go to, then you apply to that school. That school still has to approve me.
Mhm.
So they come to my house, they do a home visit. I've got a plethora of paperwork, my doctors, my optometrist.
You have to pass.
Exactly, I have to pass. They have to know that I can work with a guide dog.
Yes.
They have to know that I'm out a lot. So if you're shut in and you're not going to be able to walk your dog, you might not pass to get a dog, because that dog
makes
has
sense.
to stay healthy too.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and there's a lot of money invested into these dogs to get them to the level of training that they have. So they want to know that they're being worked. Not only that, these dogs love to work because it's getting out, they're doing things, they're getting rewarded. they're
Kira's very
getting
social.
love. He's very
You just met my grand dog. Oh, here comes my grand dog now.
He heard you say dogs. So once you pass all that, then there is approximately a 1-year wait
Okay.
for your dog. So the school I went to is called Guide Dogs for the Blind. Their main area is out of California, and I went to their Oregon campus. So I chose a school out of the States, and it was only because I fell in love with the school, and I loved their training practices. They breed and raise their own guide dogs.
Okay.
Most of them are labs, retrievers, or mixes of the two. And so how it works is when they're 8 weeks old, they go out to a puppy raiser family. And Akira's puppy raiser family was in Montana. So they're taken to that family. They raise them for 12 months. And in that 12 months, they take them everywhere. So you've seen the little puppies with the little vest on saying guide dog in training. So they're allowed to go to most places, not everywhere, but most places. And they teach them the social side of being a guide dog. They get them used to people and sounds and trains and planes, and they can go everywhere with them, and into schools and that sort of stuff. If they pass that, when they're 14 months old, then they come back to the school and they start their harness training.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes anywhere from 4 to 6 months, depending on the dog,
Okay.
to do everything that they need to do in harness. And I find it fascinating because I have no idea how they train them, really. Like, you don't really see that. But they teach them certain things. These dogs have to make choices for us.
Yes. Yes.
How do you train a dog to make a choice for you? The right choice.
The right choice.
Because we're completely trusting them. So as they're walking down the street, something comes up and there's a Y in the road.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it joins up on the other side. But they make the choice to go left or right based on what they feel will be the safest route for me. So I find it fascinating that they can teach them how to make these good choices for us, as still as obeying our commands and us telling them where to go and where we need to be. They know quite a few English words, of course, in their commands.
Animals are very good at communicating, I find, anyway.
They are. And he's...
Like, feed me.
Yes. He lets me know when he needs stuff, and I can tell now how it is, each thing it is, what he's trying to tell me. And they're just, well, as you can see here, once they're in harness, it's like having 2 jobs for these dogs. When they're out of harness, at home,
You're off duty.
Off duty. He is a puppy, he'll play, he'll steal my slippers, like he does all the things that, he probably shouldn't do, but a puppy would. And then once the harness goes on, he becomes serious, and he knows he's working.
So because you're legally blind, then the funding is taken care of by...
Yes, so he comes to me at no cost.
Okay.
My only cost is the food. And
this would be an expensive project, the train.
it costs anywhere, well, to sponsor a dog is $25,000, but that's still not the full cost. So companies that wish to, or people that wish to sponsor a dog, they have it at the $25,000 mark. But it's now anywhere, you'll hear anywhere from 40,000 or so to actually have a dog ready to
Have
go
you,
out.
let's say, have you ever been refused admittance to a store or with
Not refused. I've been very fortunate. Peterborough is, first of all, a wonderful community, and people are very knowledgeable in Peterborough about guide dogs, and they've seen enough around, I believe, and they ask questions, which is great. I love it when people ask me questions, because then I can let them know. You know, sometimes they'll ask me questions about, you know, can I touch your dog? And I'll say, no, I'm sorry, he's working. But at least they asked. I'm okay with that. Most of us are, to be honest with you. We don't mind those questions. But no, the only thing I've had is I've walked into some restaurants outside of Peterborough.
Okay.
And they've said, I'm sorry, we don't allow pets in our restaurant.
He's not a pet.
And I'll say, oh, that's okay. He's not a pet. He's a service dog. And I always keep my ID usually in my pocket if I'm going into a place like that. And I pull out my ID and I show it to him. And our ID is, it looks like a little driver's license. It's from the Governor General of Canada.
Okay.
And has our picture on it and our registration numbers. So that's our ID. And that tells them, that is proper ID. That tells them that he has been properly trained in a school and will behave himself. And if he doesn't behave himself, it's my responsibility to take him out. And we're taught that at school. Like, they're trained to behave, and if they don't, we leave. And that's only proper for everybody else, right? You know.
It's like kids that act up.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Exactly.
Exactly what I was thinking.
And I'll say this too, because a lot of businesses don't know this, but they do have the right to ask if it's a properly trained dog. And I wish more businesses would, because there are a lot of fake service dogs out there.
Oh, interesting point. I've never even
Yeah.
thought of that.
And you can go online for $100 and buy a vest and a fake ID for your own pet and expect to take your pet everywhere. And those pets have not been trained. So these dogs are trained to never bother another dog, to never bother or be upset with children, or a loud noise, or to bark. You haven't heard him bark yet.
No, I have never heard him bark.
They're trained to lie down at my feet when we're
Excuse me.
sitting somewhere,
Excuse
and
me.
they stay
Hear
there.
that flap?
So if you're somewhere and somebody has a service dog and they're misbehaving, they're going after food under the table, they're trying to reach the table next door at a restaurant, they're bothering the people.
It's not likely a service dog.
It's not likely a properly trained service dog. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes our dogs have bad days.
Yeah,
And-
I have bad days.
Yeah, and if they have a bad day, then I will remove myself from that situation and him, because it's not fair for him. If he's not feeling well, I'm probably not going to go out.
Yeah.
So would like to think that I'm a responsible handler and will take care. That's taking care of your own dog. But if it is a fake service dog, the owner of the place that you're at, restaurant or business, can go up and say,
I'd like to see some ID.
yeah, can I see your ID for your service dog? You can be very nice about it. And if they don't have ID, proper ID, then, just saying, well, he's my service dog, it really isn't sufficient. And they can be asked to leave. And if any dog, even my service dog, is misbehaving, they can ask me to leave. And that's only fair. I think that's only fair. But a lot of people don't know. Well, a lot of people don't know they can ask the question because they're afraid to insult us, right? They're
True.
afraid to, they don't want to upset the cart. But there are so many fake service dogs out there now that I really wish people would ask a little
I
bit
had no
more.
idea.
Yeah.
Never even, it just assumed.
That is a
That's-
whole
there's a-
other topic.
There's a dog.
to talk about.
It's a service dog. That's the end of that story.
Yeah.
But it's not. Okay.
Yeah, well, according to the AODA, the Accessibility of Ontario Disability Act, there's a whole feature on there about how to get a proper service dog, or what qualifies a person to get a service dog, I guess is more. So now they have it that a doctor's note, that your doctor could give you a note that says you qualify for a service dog.
Okay.
But what the note doesn't say is you qualify for a properly trained service dog. So people have taken the other way. Oh, my doctor gave me a note. That's all the proof I need. I can make my dog a service dog.
Take the shortcut.
They took the shortcut. And there's no law right now that says they can't do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's really unfortunate because for the, you know, when you're investing $40,000 to get a dog properly trained, and there's been a lot of fight about them, you know, people refusing an actual service dog, thinking that they're going to misbehave because 2 days ago a dog was in and really did misbehave, but that dog wasn't a properly trained
Wasn't
service
probably, but
dog.
everybody just
My
assumes.
dog is.
Everybody assumes, yeah. I know.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. Yeah, just what's
Yeah.
it?
When you're getting the dog, do you like spend time with them before you get them, or
Yes,
do you
so-
get assigned, or do you get to choose, or?
We don't choose our dog. They actually match the dog up to us.
Oh, that's interesting.
So after talking to us and knowing what type of a dog we need or what we want to do with our own daily lives, like how many times I'm out and where I need to go, and if I lived in Toronto, I'd have to make sure I had a dog that was good on subways, for example, and things like in Peterborough, I didn't have to make sure Akira was good on subways, even though he's been on them. I'm not on them at all, so that wasn't a key thing for me. So they match us up, and then we go to the school, and at our school we're 2 weeks at the school. So I went to Oregon for 2 weeks, totally immersed right away with Akira, and we started our training right away. So it's intense. Oh my gosh, it's intense
So
training.
we're not just
but it's
training,
really good.
not just training the dog, we're training.
No, we're training me at that point. He's completely trained. So now they're training me how to be a handler, and getting the two of us working together. And actually for the first week, we're not allowed to tell family or friends, we're not allowed to email in or tell them at all anything about our dog, because it's possible that we don't match. The dog doesn't want to listen to us, or I just don't get along with the dog, whatever. We might, and they will switch us. They'll bring another dog in for us and give us a chance to try that. So,
Okay.
yeah, so they always tell us the first week, don't say anything, just in case. Yeah.
And how old are the dogs when you actually get them?
Anywhere, usually the youngest is about 18 months, so anywhere from 18 to 22 months.
And Akira's how old now?
He's now 2.5.
2.5.
He was actually 18 months when I got him.
Okay.
He was an early graduate, but he did really well.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was very much a puppy when we came home.
He's still a puppy from looks of him.
He's still a puppy, yeah. But he's, even in 1 year, it's amazing how much calmer he is. Now that we're here and we're settled and we've worked together for
Settled.
a year.
He knows, yeah, he's a routine now.
Yes, he's
Yeah,
got a
there's
good
a routine.
routine.
And you can expect to keep Akira indefinitely, like just.
No, he would need to be retired. Every school's a little different, but my school, they retire them by his age of 10.
Okay.
So I'll have him for roughly 8 years, and there's a choice. So if I wanted to get another guide dog,
Mm-hmm.
it's not wise to keep Akira and have a new guide dog. It's hard on Akira because he'll want to keep
You
working.
want to keep on doing his thing.
Yeah, and leaving him at home and going out with another dog wouldn't be fair. So if I wanted to get another guide dog, then I can give him to a family member or a close friend who I trust would take care of him. Or if there's nobody that I know that could take care of him, there's a list of families through the school that will take in retired pets. And if I do not want to get another guide dog, let's say I'm just going to go back to using my cane, then I can keep him myself for his retirement as a pet.
As a pet.
Yes,
not
and
as a-
they actually will take away the harness.
Okay.
Yeah, the harness always belongs to the school. So they'll take away the harness to ensure that I'm not going to work him. And the reason is they want their last 4 or 5 years to be a good, healthy retirement and let them enjoy it. You know, they've been working hard
They
for
worked all their lives.
10 years, so give them a good, healthy retirement. And I'm fine with that. I can't imagine the day I have to give them up, but I'm fine with it.
Yes, that's going to be, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be tough. I'm not even going to think about it.
No, it's a ways off. Let's skip
yeah,
that for now.
yeah, that sounds good.
So the dog is capable of replacing all the functionality of the cane, though. So
Absolutely, even more so. He does more than what a cane does. So a cane can tell me what's right in front of me.
Yes.
He tells me what's up ahead and avoids what's coming at me, which is what I needed, because that's what I don't have is distance. So we'll come up to a corner. He tells me that whether the curb is going up or going down, or a set of stairs, whether it's up or it's down. I still have to know where I'm going. Like, he's not a GPS.
Yes.
I can't say, Akira, let's go to the bank, and off we go. It doesn't quite work that way. I have to know I have to go down this street, turn right, go down that street, turn left at the corner. So he'll take me from A to B, so along the street to the next corner. at that corner I need to tell him left or right or forward. And then we go, and then I have to know when it's safe to cross the street, when I think it's safe. But then Akira will do, my school calls it disobedient obedience. So if I tell him to go forward across the street because I think it's safe to go,
Okay.
and all of a sudden something comes up that's gonna, a car comes around the corner or something like that, he'll stop. He'll disobey my command. He'll stop me, either push me back or pull me fast forward if the car or whatever's coming behind us to get me out of the way. So if he stops me and makes me wait, that car goes by, then I'll give him a second command. Hop up is the command with a question mark. And that tells him go if it's safe. So he can make the choice to go if it's safe.
So when you say he tells you, like is that in terms of like the angle of his the device? The
Of him, yeah. So the guide dogs are always on our left side. I've not actually seen one on the right. They can be made to travel on your right if it is something you need. Otherwise, they're trained on the left. So he curls or angles himself in front of my left leg, and that stops me. As soon as my leg hits him, that stops me. So I know something's there. It could be a big item. It could be a table. He comes up to the table. Let's say he can't get around. He'll stop, and he'll kind of angle and point at the table, so I'll reach out and say, oh, there's a table there. Let's find our way around, and we'll start finding our way around things. But yeah, if he just curls in front and stops me right away, then we know not to move. And it's like at a curb, we know not to step off the curb until he moves first. Because if he moves first, then it's safe. If I move ahead of him, it kind of defeats the purpose of him stopping me, right?
So when you say you're going to the curb and he stops, like, is he able to read the sort of like the hand or the little guy walking, or is it just...
No, he stops at every corner regardless,
right, and
waits for me to tell him if it's safe to go. So if you can't see the sign, you've got to listen to the traffic.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And
so there's still a risk here in the sense that, like, if it is like a red light or something and you can't tell the difference, and okay, I don't hear any traffic,
I think it's safe to go, so
yeah.
I'll say Akira forward, and if it's safe, and even if it looks like I'm jaywalking but there's no cars around, it's still safe, he'll go.
Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't follow the light. They don't know that.
They don't know.
No, they don't know that. So, but hopefully, we're moving with the traffic and we're able to go with traffic.
Is there more sounds at the crosswalks now? More beeps? In Peterborough, that's not something I really noticed, but I didn't know if that was growing more.
It is, yeah. So now when they put in a new intersection, they are putting in the audible.
That has to be a lot of help.
It tells you when it's safe to go. You can totally relax. Yes. So it'll either the beeping sound you hear when you approach the corner isn't the beeping sound that says to go or to not go. It's just telling you that there's an audible button here. No, there's an audible button here. Oh. So you find the button, you press it, and you have to hold it down for 3 seconds. And then it'll start talking to you. It'll say, wait. You wait to cross George Street. Wait. And then when it's safe to go, it changes, goes beep, 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 beep. And says it's safe to cross George Street. Okay. And then it does the countdown. A lot of them have that now. And if they don't have the talking, it changes the beeping.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's both. Yeah. They're great. I wish every intersection had them.
It's coming.
It's coming, yeah. They just put a new one in down on George Street across from No Frills.
Oh, right.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah, so that's a new intersection, and they put great curb cuts in the sidewalk, and they've got the audible sounds, and so they've done that corner like one of the newer looking corners. It's good.
Go on. My flav. So,
it's getting his 2 cents in.
Yeah, no kidding. Leslie, we've covered a lot of material here.
We have.
And thank you for coming out. And you, Lindsay.
Thank you
Thanks for coming on.
Yes, thank you.
So I think I'd like to wrap this up for now, if that's okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know you have another appointment to go to. That's the other thing.
Oh, that's quite all right, yeah.
But I'd like to invite you back again, both of you. Dave, thanks for your
Yeah.
Without you, nothing would happen. And Kira. So I'm Bill Smurray, and I'd like to thank Lindsey Reynolds and Leslie Yee for coming up. That's how I'm pronouncing it right, am I wrong?
You
Okay.
are, that's right. Thank
And
you.
Leslie, as I said before, is the chairperson for the Canadian Council of the Blind Peterborough Chapter. I found this session very informative.
Well, thank you
I've
for
learned,
having
well,
us.
I've learned a lot. Guide dogs and phony guide dogs and just living with a vision impairment.
Yeah, visual impairment or, yeah.
So, Leslie, for both of you, if you'd like to come back again sometime, and you're both more than welcome. So,
Thank you.
That'd
and
be
I see
great.
Lindsay all the time. So, anyway, thanks for watching, listening, and I'm Bill Smurray again, and goodbye for now.